Today's number 2 most urgent vulnerability is CVE 2026-16812, a perfect 10 out of 10 issue in VeloCloud Orchestrator on-prem. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal from CVE, first EPSS, and CVSS. And this one earns the time. The official description says a remote attacker may access privileged internal functionality, impact the VCO host, and compromise confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the orchestrator and the data it manages. The key phrase is not just critical, it is known to be actively exploited. So this is not a theoretical dashboard finding. If you run on-prem VCO, treat this as an operational priority. The affected product named in today's data is Arista/VeloCloud Orchestrator, specifically VeloCloud Orchestrator, or VCO, on-prem. VCO is the orchestration layer, so the stakes are higher than a single endpoint. The official description says functionality that was intended for internal use only was not intended to be remotely accessible. But this issue may allow a remote attacker to reach it. The weakness is CVE-78, improper neutralization of special elements used in an operating system command, commonly called OS command injection. In plain English, that means software may pass attacker-influenced input into a system-level operation in an unsafe way. We are not going into payloads or exploit mechanics. The defensive takeaway is simple. Internal privileged capability may become reachable from outside its intended trust boundary. Score, judgment. This is a drop-everything class score because it is remote, unauthenticated, and can cross a trust boundary. The full CVSS vector is 10.0 critical. Network attack vector, low complexity, no privileges required, no user interaction, change scope, and high impact to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. But the metrics that matter most for decision-making are these. First, an attacker does not need an account or a user click according to the vector. Second, scope is changed, meaning the impact can extend beyond the initially vulnerable component. Combined with high impact across data exposure, data modification, and service availability, that is why this lands at the maximum score rather than merely high severity. The real-world danger is what pushes this from severe to urgent. The vulnerability is in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, and the official description says it was discovered externally and is known to be actively exploited. That is a very different risk posture than a flaw found only in a lab or reported only through an internal audit. CVE status means defenders should assume adversaries understand enough to use it somewhere in the wild. The EPSS percentile provided today is 0.58631, which is not the headline here. The headline is that actual exploitation has already been observed. When CVE and a perfect CVSS score line up, the right question is not, can we wait for the normal maintenance window? It is, what exposed on-prem VCO systems do we own, and how fast can we reduce risk? Conceptually, the attack path is about reachability. The vendor description says the affected functionality was intended for internal use only and not intended to be remotely accessible. So defenders should think in terms of an exposed control surface. If an on-prem VCO interface is reachable from untrusted networks and internal privileged functionality is also reachable through the flaw, the normal boundary between outside traffic and host-level capability may fail. The CVSS vector says network, low complexity, no privileges, and no user interaction, which means the defensive model cannot depend on phishing resistance, user training, or account hardening alone. This does not tell us which exact endpoint or request pattern is involved, and we should not guess. It does tell us that segmentation, access control, and prompt remediation matter immediately. To check whether you are affected, start with inventory, not assumptions. Identify every VeloCloud Orchestrator on-prem instance in your environment, including production, disaster recovery, lab, and older appliances or virtual deployments that may still be reachable. Then, use the vendor advisory for exact affected versions and remediation details. Do not infer version ranges from this briefing. They are not provided in the data we have. The official description does state that hosted and dedicated versions of VCO have already been patched in advance of the notice. That is useful, but on-prem operators still need to verify their own deployments. Also check exposure paths, internet-facing access, VPN access, partner networks, management joke points, and monitoring integrations. The core question is whether untrusted or broadly trusted networks can reach the orchestrator. What should defenders do now? First, follow the official vendor advisory and apply the recommended remediation for on-prem VCO. Because this is KEV listed and actively exploited, treat patching as time-sensitive. Second, reduce exposure while remediation is underway. Restrict VCO management access to trusted administrative networks. Enforce VPN or jump host controls where appropriate, and block direct access from untested networks if your architecture allows it. Third, assume the orchestrator is high value. Review administrative accounts, configuration changes, recent access patterns, and backup health. If you have compensating controls such as web filtering, network access control, or management plane allow lists, validate that they actually cover VCO. Do not stop at the boxes patched. For a control plane system, you also want confidence that no unauthorized change occurred before the fix. For detection and monitoring, focus on deviations from normal orchestrator behavior. Review VCO access logs for unusual source IPs, unexpected geographies, new autonomous systems, or access from networks that normally should not manage the orchestrator. Watch for spikes and errors, repeated probing, or requests that appear to hit administrative or internal-only functionality, while avoiding assumptions about exact exploit paths not provided here. On the host side, look for unusual process execution, unexpected child processes, abnormal outbound connections, new files, or changes to scheduled tasks and service configurations if those telemetry sources are available. On the application side, review new or modified admin accounts, privilege changes, configuration pushes, and unexpected changes to managed data. Normal should look like known administrators, known management networks, predictable maintenance windows, and explainable orchestration activity. To recap, CVE 2026-16812 is today's number 2 ranked CVE because it combines a perfect 10.0 CVSS score with CISA KEV status and active exploitation. It affects VeloCloud Orchestrator on-prem, involves a CVE-78 command injection class weakness, and may allow remote access to privileged internal functionality that can impact the VCO host and the orchestrator data it manages. If you operate on-prem VCO, verify scope using the vendor advisory, remediate, restrict access, and review logs and configuration changes for signs of exposure. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal, every day. Subscribe for the next ranked breakdown, and check the full ranked report linked in the description.